Conference at the Half. I'm Steve Ulrich, and you've just watched the first half at Bream Gymnasium on the campus of Gettysburg College. Gettysburg taking a 29-19 lead over Franklin and Marshall. Caroline Murphy leading the way for the Bullets with 9 points, while Sam Plunkett leads the way for the Bullets with 5. This is our first venture trying out a little halftime studio show to catch you up on all the action in the Centennial Conference this evening. Elsewhere, we have two other women's games that tipped off at 6 o'clock. Johns Hopkins is at McDaniel, and we also have Haverford at Ursinus. On the men's side, we have Swarthmore at Washington College, tipped off at 6 o'clock. 7:30 will be men's game between Muhlenberg and Dickinson. Then at 8 o'clock, on the women's side, will be Swarthmore at Washington College. And on the men's side, we will have Johns Hopkins, McDaniel, Gettysburg, Franklin, and Marshall, and Haverford and Ursinus. As we said, one of the key games tonight takes place in Westminster, when the first place Johns Hopkins Blue Jays, 12-4 overall, 10-1 in the Centennial Conference, are at the Gill Center taking on McDaniel, 12-4, 7-3 in the conference. And with a minute and a half to go in the first half, McDaniel has a 27-13 lead over the Blue Jays. Battle of two of the Division III's all-time winningest coaches, the Blue Jays, Nancy Funk, and the Green Terror, Becky Martin. Steph Perez leading the Green Terror with 10 points, Fatu Kante with 9 for the Blue Jays. Taking a look on the men's side, with 21 seconds to go in the first half, Swarthmore has a 38-32 lead over Washington College. Swarthmore looking for his 6th win of the year, 5-12 on the season, 2-8 in the conference. Seth Lieber with a team-high 12 points for the Garnet. Washington 4-13 overall, 3-7 in the conference. Tony Hawkins with 9 points for the Garnet. Let's go back to the women's side very quickly, and let's take a look at the Franklin Marshall Gettysburg first half stats. And while we're waiting here, let's see if we can't pull up the women's standings for you. As we try to work our devices here, as we mentioned, Gettysburg currently 5th place in the conference, the defending conference champions, taking on longtime rival Franklin and Marshall. The Bullets with a 10-point lead at the break. And we're having a little trouble pulling up that information. Elsewhere on the women's side, Haverford 8-1 overall, 8-1 in the conference, 14-1 overall, with a 32-27 lead over Ursinus. That game is at the Half at Helfrich Hall in Collegeville. It's a full weekend for the women, with 5 games slated for Thursday and 5 games slated for Saturday, as you can see on the screen. On Thursday, Swarthmore visits Johns Hopkins, Haverford is at Franklin and Marshall, Washington College visits McDaniel, Muhlenberg is at Dickinson, and Bryn Mawr is at Ursinus. Johns Hopkins in a position where if they can pull off 3 wins this week, they can run the trifecta of beating McDaniel, beating Swarthmore, and then knocking off Haverford. Johns Hopkins can possibly clinch a playoff spot with 6 games remaining in the season. Once again, you're watching Centennial at the Half. Your score from Bream Gymnasium, Gettysburg leading Franklin and Marshall by a score of 29-19. And we are going to pull up some halftime stats for you. I'm glad you're with us. Hopefully you can join us at halftime of the men's contest today. We'll bring you up-to-date scores and stats from tonight's men's contest as well. The joys of live television, obviously, here as we struggle a little bit to get our data up. Once again, let's take a look around the conference again on the women's side with 14 seconds to go in the first half in Westminster. McDaniel, a surprising 19-point lead over first place Johns Hopkins. McDaniel leading 32-13. Steph Perez leading the way for the Green Terror with 13 points. Fatu Kante with 9 for the Blue Jays. Elsewhere at the Half in Collegeville, Ursinus trails Haverford by a score of 32-27. Haverford trailing Johns Hopkins by 1 game in the standings in the Centennial Conference. Game you're watching, Gettysburg leading Franklin Marshall by a score of 29-19. And on the men's side tonight at the half is Swarthmore leading Washington College by a score of 41-32. We're going to take a short timeout. We'll be right back. You're watching Centennial Conference at the half. You're watching Centennial Conference at the half, live on centennial.org. In the only men's contest that tipped off at 6 o'clock, Swarthmore has a 41-32 lead over Washington College in Chestertown. Seth Liebert and Sam Liebrecht, both in double figures for the Garnet. Liebert with 12 points on 4 or 5 shooting. Liebrecht with 10 on 4 or 5 shooting. The Garnet shooting 59.3% from the floor in the first 20 minutes. Tony Hawkins leads Washington College with 9 points. The Shoremen shooting just 38% from the floor. Once again, Swarthmore leading Washington College 41-32 at the half. On the women's side, we've just gone to half in Westminster. McDaniel has a 33-13 lead over Johns Hopkins. Steph Perez leading the way for the Green Terror with 13 points. McDaniel looking for his 13th win of the season. Perez with 13 points, Brittany Davis off the bench with 5, Carly Zepps and Lindsay Nichols with 4 points apiece. Tatu Conte leading Johns Hopkins with 9 points. Hopkins being held to just 20% shooting from the floor. Hopkins 4 of 20 from the floor. McDaniel 11 of 26 from the field, 42%. McDaniel 3 of 6 from long range. Hopkins 0 for 4 from beyond the arc. Once again, shocker in Westminster after 20 minutes. McDaniel leads Johns Hopkins by a score of 33-13. Elsewhere, Franklin and Marshall and Gettysburg. Gettysburg with a 29-19 lead over Franklin and Marshall at the break. Caroline Murphy leading the way for the Bullets with 9 points. Sam Plunkett leading the Bullets, leading Franklin and Marshall, with 5 points. You're watching Centennial Basketball at the half, live on centennial.org. Glad to have you with us this evening. If you're following us on the centennial.org page, you'll also see an opportunity for links that will lead you back to the game that you are currently watching, either Swarthmore Washington men's basketball, Johns Hopkins McDaniel women, Franklin Marshall Gettysburg women, and Haverford and Ursinus women. Coming up later on this evening, 7:30 start. First place on the men's side, Dickinson Red Devils, a 2-game lead over Muhlenberg, who's currently in 4th place, and Mules come calling to the Klein Center to take on the Red Devils. Matchup of 3 of the league's most dynamic players. For Dickinson, Jerry Wickstead and Adam Honig. For Muhlenberg, the reigning Centennial Player of the Week, Malik Killing, averaging 23 points per game. The 5'8" junior guard, as we said, one of the most dynamic players in the conference. That game tips off at 7:30. At 8 o'clock on the men's side will be Franklin and Marshall at Gettysburg, Haverford at Ursinus, and Johns Hopkins at McDaniel. On the women's side, Swarthmore takes on Washington College. That game is scheduled for an 8 o'clock tip. Once again, let's run down the halftime scores for you. Sorry we don't have our graphics working as quickly as we would have liked. On the women's side, Gettysburg leads Franklin and Marshall 29-19. Caroline Murphy leads the Bullets with 9 points. Haverford has a 32-27 lead over Ursinus. Haverford a game out of first place, looking to take advantage of Hopkins. Johns Hopkins trailing McDaniel at the break, 33-13 in Westminster. Hopkins shooting just 20% from the floor. Steph Perez leading McDaniel with 13 points. And on the men's side, Swarthmore leads Washington College by a score of 41-32. Seth Liebert with 12 points. Sam Liebert with 10 for the Garnet, who's shooting 59% from the floor. Washington College shooting 38% from the floor. Tony Hawkins leads the way for the Shoremen with 9 points. Thanks very much for joining us on Centennial Conference at the half. Hope you will join us later on this evening. We'll bring you more scores and stats from around the conference. Right now, we're going to send you back to your game. You're watching Centennial Conference basketball on centennialconference.tv.